The penthouse door slammed behind Alexander Voss like a coffin lid. He stood barefoot on the marble, blood still dripping from the split in his lip, the metallic taste mixing with the bourbon he hadn't even swallowed yet. Every screen in the living room blazed with the same headline: Voss Empire CO arrested, $2.8 billion embezzlement scheme. His own face stared back at him, cuffed, wild-eyed, guilty. The phone in his hand vibrated once more before he hurled it against the wall. It shattered like his life had 10 minutes ago. Downstairs, the FBI was already sealing the building. Up here, 63 floors above Manhattan, the air tasted like betrayal. Alexander sank to his knees, the cold stone biting through his silk trousers. His chest heaved, but no sound came out. Just the low, animal hum of a man realizing the woman he'd kissed goodbye that morning had just signed his death warrant. And then he heard it. Soft footsteps. Bare feet on marble. Someone who shouldn't be here after midnight. He looked up, vision blurred with tears and rage, and saw her. Jasmine King stood in the doorway of the service corridor, still wearing the simple black uniform she'd had on for 16 hours. Her locks were pulled into a low bun, a few strands escaping like dark flames. Her brown eyes weren't wide with shock like everyone else's tonight. They were furious. In her right hand, she held a flash drive the size of a matchbox. In her left, a single sheet of paper that trembled only slightly. "Mr. Voss," she whispered, voice low enough that the hidden cameras wouldn't catch it. "If you're ready to fight dirty. I just found the knife she used to stab you in the back." She stepped closer, and the overhead lights caught the tiny scar on her cheek, the one she'd gotten pulling her little brother out of a burning car 10 years ago. The same cheek Victoria had once laughed at during a dinner party, calling it such a tragic little mark on an otherwise acceptable face. Jasmine's fingers tightened around the flash drive until her knuckles went ash-gray. "Your wife didn't just frame you," she said. "She planned to make sure you never left that jail cell alive." Alexander's heart slammed against his ribs so hard he felt it in his teeth. "How long do you have?" he rasped. "They're coming back with a second warrant in 43 minutes. This time for murder-suicide." Jasmine's eyes flicked to the balcony doors, then back to him. "They'll say you jumped after killing me to cover your tracks." A laugh tore out of him, broken, disbelieving. "And you're what? Here to save the bastard who signs your paychecks?" "No," she said, stepping so close he could smell the lavender oil on her wrists. "I'm here to save the man who gave my brother a heart transplant when no insurance would touch us. The man who sat in that hospital waiting room with me at 3 a.m. eating vending machine donuts like a regular human being." She pressed the flash drive into his bleeding palm and closed his fingers around it. "But if we're going to burn Victoria's perfect little world to the ground," she whispered, "we have to move right now. And you have to trust me more than you've ever trusted anyone in your entire life." Alexander stared at the tiny device in his hand. One wrong move, and they both ended up dead or disappeared. He looked up into Jasmine's eyes, steady, fierce, alive with something that looked a hell of a lot like hope, and felt the first spark of fight flare back to life in his gut. "Tell me what to do," he said. "Hey, beautiful souls watching this right now. Yes, you. I see you there in the dark, heart racing already. Drop a quick, I'm locked in from your city, in the comments so I know where the real ones are writing this out with me tonight. How's your heart holding up? If you're not subscribed yet, smash that button right now because you're about to watch a billionaire and his maid go to war." Jasmine King was born in the Robert Taylor homes on the south side of Chicago, 29 years ago, in a third-floor apartment where the heat only worked when the super felt like it. Her mother cleaned hospital floors at night. Her father existed only in a single Polaroid taped inside a shoebox. By age 7, Jasmine could braid her little brother Malik's hair, cook spaghetti with nothing but ketchup and government cheese, and spot a lie from 3 blocks away. At 11, she watched Malik's first heart failure episode on a cracked linoleum kitchen floor while 911 put her on hold for 9 minutes. She learned that day that the world doesn't save black boys with bad hearts. It just sends bills. So she saved him herself. Every dollar she earned, lemonade stands, babysitting, detasseling corn in July heat that peeled her shoulders raw, went into a Folgers can labeled Malik's heart. When the can wasn't enough, she taught herself to code on a library computer that crashed every 20 minutes. By 15, she was ghostwriting essays for rich kids at private schools across town, $200 a pop, cash in hand. By 17, she'd built an app that matched low-income patients with canceled transplant slots. It got her a full ride to MIT, and a cease and desist from 3 different hospital networks who didn't like a black girl exposing their games. She turned down MIT. Instead, she took the insurance money when her mother died of exhaustion at 43 and paid cash for Malik's surgery at 31 different hospitals until one finally said yes. The surgeon called it a miracle. Jasmine called it Tuesday. After Malik woke up, she needed a job that paid in cash, asked no questions, and let her keep her little brother close. Domestic work checked every box. She learned how to fade into the background of penthouses, so completely that billionaires forgot she was in the room while they planned hostile takeovers over Eggs Benedict. She learned their secrets the way other people learn subway routes. Victoria Voss hired her because you're quiet and you don't steal. Jasmine smiled, took the job, and started a private encrypted file the very first week titled Insurance, just in case. 6 years later, that file is 4.7 terabytes. She knows which Senator Victoria flew to Dubai on the private jet. She knows the real reason the Voss family lawyer's wife fell down the marble stairs. She knows Victoria keeps a burner phone taped under the drawer of the guest room nightstand, and that every Thursday at 2:14 a.m. it receives a single text that reads only, "Is it done?" Jasmine knows because every Thursday at 2:15 a.m. she's on her knees scrubbing baseboards that aren't dirty, close enough to hear Victoria whisper back, "Almost." But what nobody knows, not Victoria, not the FBI, not even Alexander until 43 minutes ago, is that Jasmine King has been waiting. Waiting for the exact moment the woman who called her, the help, with that syrupy smile would finally hand her the one thing worth more than money. A reason. A reason to stop being invisible. A reason to use every line of code, every secret, every sleepless night since she was 11 years old. Tonight, on the cold marble of a penthouse that isn't hers, Jasmine King is done waiting. She is the storm Victoria never saw coming. And she's bringing receipts. Alexander Voss couldn't stop staring at the flash drive in his palm like it might bite him. 42 minutes until the second raid. 42 minutes until they painted him as a wife killer and threw away the key forever. He looked up at Jasmine King, really looked, for the first time in 6 years. She was already moving. She kicked off her worn black flats, rolled the paper she'd brought into a tight cylinder, and slid it down the inside of her bra like it was a dagger. Then she grabbed his wrist with fingers that should have been trembling but weren't. "Guest bathroom. Now," she ordered, voice barely above a breath. "Cameras are blind for 90 seconds when the motion sensor resets. I rigged it last year when Victoria started bringing investors home at 4 a.m. Alexander let her pull him through the penthouse he'd once ruled like a sleepwalker. Past the Rothko he'd paid $14 million for. Past the Baccarat chandelier that cost more than most people's houses. Past the framed photo of him and Victoria on their wedding day, her smile sharp enough to cut glass. Jasmine locked the bathroom door, hit the lights, and yanked open the vanity drawer. Underneath the stack of Egyptian cotton hand towels was a false bottom. She popped it out like she'd practiced 1,000 times. Inside, a burner phone, a passport in the name Jade Kingston, and a single gold cufflink Alexander had lost the night Malik's transplant went through. He stared at the cufflink. "You kept this. You left it in the waiting room trash after you fell asleep on my shoulder," she said without looking up. "Figured you'd want proof one day that you used to be human." Something cracked open in his chest, ugly and raw. "Jasmine, save it." She was already typing at warp speed on the burner. "Right now I need the man who built an empire out of nothing, not the guy who's been crying on Italian marble for 20 minutes. The screen lit up with a secure chat window. "One contact, M. Jasmine, package is live. 40 minutes. Need exit route Bravo 3. M, already rolling. Roof in 8. Bring the king." Alexander's head snapped up. "Roof? We're 63 floors. And the service elevator is wired to freeze the second the FBI hits the lobby. Roof's the only way." She finally met his eyes. "Unless you'd rather wait here for them to put a bullet in your head and call it suicide." He swallowed. "Who the hell are you?" She gave him a smile that was half heartbreak, half wildfire. "I'm the girl who learned that if the system won't save the people you love, you burn the system down and build a new one." The burner buzzed again. "M chopper inbound. ETA 7 minutes. Tell the king to leave the crown. It's evidence now." Jasmine shoved the phone in her pocket and grabbed a can of black spray paint from the same hiding spot. In 3 swift strokes, she obliterated the security camera in the corner. Alexander watched her move, efficient, fearless, and felt 6 years of ignoring her crash over him like a tidal wave. All those mornings she'd left his coffee exactly 182 degrees because she knew he hated it scalding. All those nights she dimmed the lights in the library when he fell asleep reading to Malik over FaceTime. All those times Victoria had called her the help, and Jasmine had just smiled like she was taking notes. He reached for her without thinking, fingers brushing the scar on her cheek. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "For every time I let her treat you like you were invisible." Jasmine went still. For one heartbeat the warrior vanished, and the girl who'd once held her dying brother in a hallway that smelled like bleach flickered across her face. Then the mask slammed back down. "Clock's ticking, Mr. Voss." She pulled away, but not before he saw the sheen in her eyes. "You want to make it right? Then live long enough for me to ruin her." She opened the bathroom door a crack, listened, then yanked him into the service corridor. As they ran, barefoot, bleeding, billion-dollar empire already ashes behind them, Alexander realized the truth with a clarity that hurt worse than any handcuff. The most dangerous person in his world had never been Victoria. It was the woman whose hand was locked around his like she'd never let go. The service stairs were a concrete throat, 63 floors of echoing darkness and the metallic smell of panic sweat. Alexander's lungs burned. Jasmine was 3 steps ahead, moving like gravity had personally agreed to take the night off. Every time her bare heel hit the landing, the sound cracked through him like a starter pistol. 59th floor. 58th. 57th. She suddenly spun, slammed her palm into his chest, and pinned him against the cold wall so hard the breath left his body in a rush. Shoo, a single finger to his lips. Her eyes were huge in the red exit glow. Below them, boots. FBI tactical, moving fast. Jasmine's forehead pressed to his, so close he could taste the mint on her breath from the gum she chewed when she was pretending not to be terrified. "Don't move," she whispered. The words vibrated against his mouth. He couldn't have moved if the building was on fire, because her hand was still flat over his heart, and his heart was trying to punch straight through his ribs into her palm, because her locks had come completely loose and were brushing his cheek like silk ropes, because the scar he'd touched minutes ago was now an inch from his lips, and he wanted nothing more than to kiss it until the past 10 years disappeared. She felt it. Of course she did. Her pupils blew wide, black swallowing brown. "Alexander," she breathed, so quietly it was barely sound, more vibration. "If we die in the next 5 minutes, I need you to know." He didn't let her finish. He kissed her. Not soft. Not polite. Not the grateful employer kisses loyal employee bullshit. He kissed her like a man who'd just realized oxygen had a name, and it was Jasmine King. She made a shocked little sound that turned into a moan the second his tongue slid against hers. Her fingers curled into his shirt, yanking him closer even as the boots got louder below. He tasted salt, his blood, her tears didn't matter. He tasted 6 years of stolen glances and swallowed apologies, and every time he'd called her Miss King, when what he'd wanted to say was stay. When they broke apart, her lips were swollen and her eyes were blazing. "That," she panted, "was incredibly stupid timing. Best stupid I've ever done," he rasped. A smile ghosted across her mouth, real, unguarded, devastating, then vanished as the boots hit the landing beneath them. She grabbed his hand. "Roof. Now!" They exploded upward. 55th. 52nd. 50th. Every floor they passed, the kiss rewrote itself in his bloodstream. Hotter, hungrier, impossible to outrun. At the 48th floor landing, she stumbled. He caught her around the waist, spun her back to the wall, and kissed her again. Slower this time, filthy slow, like they had all the time in the world instead of maybe 90 seconds. Her thigh slid up his hip, hooking there. His hand found skin where her uniform had ridden up. They were both shaking. "Tell me you feel it too," he growled against her neck. "I've felt it since the night you cried in the library because Malik's new heart beat 72 times per minute, and you said it sounded like hope." Her voice cracked. "I just never thought you'd." Headlights speared through the stairwell window. The chopper. They ran. Bursting onto the roof, wind whipped their faces raw. The bird hovered 10 feet off the pad, blades thundering, searchlight blinding. A rope ladder slapped down. Jasmine turned to him, hair flying like a battle flag, and shouted over the roar. "Whatever happens next, Alexander Voss, you're not allowed to die before I get to ruin you in private." He laughed. Actually laughed, wild and free and alive. Then he grabbed her face and kissed her one more time. Hard, possessive, promising 1,000 nights that hadn't happened yet. "Deal," he said. They climbed. Hand over hand, bodies pressed close, the city falling away beneath them. As the chopper banked hard over the Hudson, Jasmine leaned out just enough to flip the burning penthouse the bird. Alexander wrapped his arms around her from behind, lips to her ear. "Victoria thinks she took everything," he murmured. "She just gave me the only thing that ever mattered." Jasmine twisted in his arms, kissed him until the pilot yelled at them to sit down, and whispered, "Hold on tight, billionaire. We're just getting started." The safe house was a decommissioned textile warehouse in Red Hook, Brooklyn, windows painted black, heat rattling through pipes older than both of them combined. One bare bulb. One mattress on the floor. One bottle of Hennessy that cost more than the building. They had been there 19 hours and 37 minutes. 19 hours of Jasmine hunched over 3 laptops, fingers flying, eyes bloodshot, locks twisted up with a pen stabbed through them like a bayonet. 19 hours of Alexander pacing the concrete like a caged wolf, shirt unbuttoned to the waist, bruises blooming purple across his ribs where the FBI had helped him into the squad car. 19 hours of stolen glances that lasted half a second too long. 19 hours of pretending the mattress was big enough for 2 people who weren't allowed to touch. At hour 20, the bulb flickered. Jasmine's head snapped up. Power grid just hiccuped. Someone's pinging the cameras 2 blocks out. Alexander crossed the room in 3 strides. "Victoria?" "Worse." She spun the center laptop toward him. A live feed. Victoria on every major network, pearl earrings, crocodile tears, voice trembling like a violin string. "My husband was a monster in a custom suit," she sobbed to the blonde anchor. "I begged him to get help. If I'd known he was capable of hurting that poor housekeeper." The anchor leaned in, hungry. "Sources say Jasmine King's body still hasn't been recovered from the Hudson. Do you believe she's dead?" Victoria dabbed her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief. "I have to believe Alexander silenced her to protect his secrets. God forgive me for marrying the devil." Alexander's fist went through the drywall. Jasmine didn't flinch. She just closed the laptop, stood up slowly, and walked straight into his space until the heat of her body pressed against the heat of his rage. "Hey! Soft. Dangerous. Look at me." He did. Her pupils were blown wide, lips parted, breath coming in shallow waves. She reached up, threaded her fingers through his hair, and yanked his forehead down to hers. "Feel this," she whispered. "Feel me breathing. I'm not in the Hudson. I'm right here. And I'm about to make that lying bitch choke on every diamond she ever stole." His hands found her waist without permission, gripping hard enough to leave marks through the thin cotton of the stolen NYPD hoodie she wore. She arched into the pressure like it was oxygen. "Jasmine," he growled, "if you don't step back right now, I'm going to." "You're going to what?" She rose on tiptoes, lips brushing the shell of his ear. "Put me on that mattress and ruin 6 years of restraint in one night? Because I swear to God, Alexander, if you don't, I will." The last thread snapped. He kissed her like punishment and prayer. She kissed him back like forgiveness and war. They hit the mattress hard enough to rattle the springs. Her hoodie vanished somewhere between the first and second gasp. His belt clattered against the concrete like gunfire. Teeth scraped collarbones. Nails raked down spines. Every touch was a question. Every moan was an answer. But when his hand slid under the waistband of her leggings, she suddenly froze. He stopped instantly, breathing like he'd run a marathon. "Talk to me," he panted against her throat. She swallowed hard. "I've never," a shaky laugh. "I've never let anyone this close. Not since Malik. Not since I decided feelings were a luxury I couldn't afford." Alexander pulled back just enough to cup her face in both hands. His thumb stroked the scar on her cheek like it was made of gold. "Then let me be the first luxury you ever kept," he said, voice raw. "No cameras. No peril. Just us." Her eyes searched his for one endless second. Then she kissed him slow, deliberate, like she was memorizing the shape of salvation. Clothes disappeared in pieces, reverent not rushed. Every new inch of skin was a revelation. The tattoo over her heart, coordinates of the hospital where Malik got his second chance. The faint stretch marks on her hips from growing too fast at 14. The tiny burned scar on her inner wrist from the night she learned you can't iron grief out of a uniform. He kissed every mark like he was rewriting her history with his mouth. When he finally slid inside her, they both stopped breathing. She clung to him, forehead pressed to his, tears sliding into her locks. "Don't you dare be gentle," she whispered. So he wasn't. They moved like the world was ending, and this was the only way to survive it. The mattress squealed. The bulb flickered overhead like it was trying to keep up. When she came, she bit down on his shoulder to stay quiet, and he followed her over the edge, swearing her name like a prayer he'd forgotten he knew. After they lay tangled, sweat cooling, hearts trying to regulate, he traced lazy circles on her back. Tell me something true. She pressed her lips to the hollow of his throat. I used to stand outside your library door at 2 a.m. listening to you read Malik bedtime stories over the phone. I'd pretend you were reading to me. His arms tightened until she squeaked. Tell me something else. I've been in love with you since the night you carried my groceries up 6 flights when the elevator was broken and didn't even realize you were wearing a $40,000 watch. He laughed, watery and wrecked. Jesus, Jasmine. Your turn, she murmured. He rolled them so she was on top, hair spilling like midnight over his chest. I used to tip you double at Christmas because I was terrified if I talked to you too long I'd do something stupid like beg you to let me keep you. She kissed him quiet. Round 2 was slower, deeper, dirtier. She rode him like she was claiming every inch of the life Victoria tried to steal. When they finally collapsed, the bulb had burned out completely, and the only light was the city bleeding through a crack in the painted window. Jasmine drew patterns on his chest with one finger. We can't stay here after tonight, she said softly. Em just sent coordinates. Tomorrow we move to the brownstone in Bed-Stuy. Victoria's people are getting close. Alexander caught her hand, pressed it over his heart. Then give me 1 more hour where the only war is between your thighs and my self-control. She smiled against his skin. Make it 2. They didn't sleep. At 4:17 a.m. the burner buzzed. M, package intercepted. V knows you're alive. She just put 10M on both your heads. Bed-Stuy's burned. New extraction in 40. Yacht at Pier 17. Bring nothing but each other. Jasmine stared at the screen, then at Alexander. He was already pulling on jeans, eyes blazing. Guess we're running again, he said. She stepped into her boots, laced them with steady hands, then looked up with a grin sharp enough to cut steel. Good. I look better in motion. He kissed her hard, tasting forever on her tongue. Then let's go steal tomorrow, baby. They slipped out the side exit into the freezing November dark, fingers locked, hearts synced. 2 fugitives carrying nothing but the clothes on their backs and 10 million reasons to burn the world down. But Victoria had no idea the fire had already started between them, and it was about to consume everything she loved. The yacht cut through the black Atlantic like a silver blade. No name on the hull. No flag. Just a ghost ship registered to a shell company in the Caymans that Jasmine had built when she was 19 and bored. They were 3 hours out from Montauk, engines throttled low, running dark. The only light came from the wheelhouse screens and the moon bleeding silver across the water. Alexander stood behind Jasmine at the helm, arms caged around her, chin on her shoulder. They hadn't spoken in 40 minutes. They didn't need to. The ocean was doing the talking. Every wave a reminder that the world they'd known was shrinking in the rear view. Until the satellite phone rang. Only one person had the number. Jasmine hit speaker. M's voice filled the cabin, distorted through 3 layers of encryption. King. You sitting down? Alexander felt her spine go rigid. Talk. Victoria didn't just frame him for embezzlement. She's been siphoning Voss Empire funds for 8 years into a black budget account labeled Project Lazarus. Guess whose biometric signature authorizes every transfer? Jasmine's fingers froze on the throttle. Alexander's blood turned to ice. Say it, he rasped. M didn't hesitate. Yours, boss. Your voice print. Your retinal scan. Your DNA marker pulled from a coffee cup you threw away in 2017. She's been you for almost a decade. The wheelhouse spun even though the yacht hadn't moved. Jasmine recovered first. Show me. A file pinged. She swiped it open on the main screen. Bank records. Hundreds of them. Transfers totaling $4.3 billion. All stamped with Alexander's digital ghost. Then the photos. Alexander in boardrooms he'd never entered. Alexander signing documents he'd never seen. Alexander shaking hands with arms dealers in Yemen, warlords in Myanmar, a cartel banker in Bogota. Every image flawless. Every image fake. Deepfakes so perfect the Pentagon would weep. But the final file was worse. A video. Time-stamped yesterday. Victoria in their bedroom, no, her bedroom now, wearing his favorite black silk robe, speaking straight to the hidden camera she knew Jasmine had planted years ago. Hello, darling, Victoria purred, swirling a glass of his 1945 Macallan. By now you've seen the money trail. You're probably feeling very clever. But here's the part your little maid forgot to check. She leaned closer to the lens, green eyes glittering like poison. Project Lazarus isn't embezzlement. It's insurance. Every dollar I moved bought a kill switch embedded in every Vostech product on the planet. Phones, cars, medical devices, pacemakers. She smiled the same smile she'd used on their wedding day. One voice command from me, and 180 million devices brick themselves simultaneously. Stock market hemorrhages $40 trillion in 6 minutes. Global economy flatlines. And every news outlet on Earth gets an untraceable video of Alexander Voss ordering the hit. She sipped the scotch. Oh, and the best part? The trigger phrase is the exact same one you used to propose to me on that ridiculous yacht in Capri. Victoria set the glass down and leaned so close her lips almost touched the lens. Until the stars burn cold. Say it, Alexander. Say it and watch the world end. The feed cut to black. For 10 full seconds the only sound was the engines and the blood roaring in their ears. Alexander's knees buckled. He caught himself on the console. Jasmine didn't move. She just stared at the frozen frame of Victoria's smile, like she was memorizing it for target practice. Then she did something that terrified him more than the video. She laughed. Low, feral, beautiful. Alexander turned. Jasmine. She spun the wheel hard, banking the yacht starboard so sharply he had to grab her waist to stay upright. Hold on, she said, voice vibrating with something unholy. To what? To the fact that Victoria just made the last mistake of her life. She killed the engines. The yacht drifted in sudden silence. Then she opened a new window on the screen. Lines of code scrolled faster than he could track. What are you doing? Remember when I told you I turned down MIT? Her fingers flew. I lied. I didn't turn it down. I burned it down. Took their entire quantum computing lab offline for 43 days because they tried to patent my transplant matching algorithm and sell it to insurance companies. She hit enter. Every screen in the wheelhouse went blood red. 6 years ago, when Victoria hired me, I installed a ghost partition on every server in Voss Empire. She thought she was stealing your identity. She never realized I stole hers first. Alexander watched in stunned awe as Victoria's face appeared on screen. Live feed from the penthouse, caught by the same hidden camera. Only now Victoria was pacing, screaming into a phone, makeup streaked, hair wild. Jasmine leaned into the mic. Hey, Vicky. Victoria froze. Jasmine's smile could have cut diamonds. You built your kill switch on my backbone. Guess whose voice just overrode yours in the system? She held up the satellite phone like a detonator. Say the phrase, Victoria. Go ahead. Say until the stars burn cold. I dare you. Victoria's mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. Nothing came out. Because every screen in her penthouse, every TV, tablet, phone, suddenly displayed the same message in Victoria's own handwriting, pulled from a diary Jasmine had photographed page by page. If I ever disappear, release the Dubai files. If I ever betray Alexander, release the abortion receipt dated 3 days after our wedding. If I ever hurt Jasmine King, release everything. Victoria's knees hit the carpet. Jasmine's voice dropped to a whisper that somehow filled the entire ocean. Checkmate, bitch. She killed the feed. Then she turned to Alexander, who was staring at her like she'd just rewritten the laws of physics. Jasmine, he breathed. What the hell did you just do? I just took away her nuclear option. She stepped into him, hands sliding up his chest, and gave us the only weapon we need. He caught her wrists. The world still thinks I'm a monster. Not for long. She rose on tiptoes, lips brushing his. Tomorrow morning, every major outlet gets an encrypted drop. The real deepfakes. The real bank records. The real video of Victoria bragging about Lazarus. And the real DNA test proving the child she aborted wasn't yours. It was her lover's. The senator she flew to Dubai. Alexander's grip tightened. You've had all this? For 4 years. Her eyes glittered. I was waiting for the day you looked at me like I was more than the help. Tonight you did. He kissed her then, slow, reverent, stunned. When they broke apart, foreheads pressed together, he whispered, marry me. She laughed through sudden tears. We're literally fugitives on a stolen yacht. Best time to propose. He dropped to one knee right there on the teak deck, salt wind whipping her locks around them like a curtain. Jasmine King, you just saved the world and stole my heart in the same breath. Marry me. Let me spend the rest of my life proving I'm worthy of the woman who burned empires for me. She hauled him up by his shirt and kissed him until they were both dizzy. Yes, she said against his mouth. But only if we get to ruin her wedding ring shopping first. He grinned, wicked and alive. Deal. Then the satellite phone buzzed again. Coast Guard just lit up 20 miles west. They're hers. Full burn to Bermuda, or we fight. Jasmine looked at Alexander. He looked at her. Together they answered. Full burn, they said in perfect unison. She slammed the throttle wide open. The yacht roared forward, slicing the night in half. Two fugitives turned gods racing toward dawn with $10 billion, a kill switch, and a love that could survive anything. Even the end of the world. But Victoria still had one card left to play. And it was hiding in the one place Jasmine never thought to look. Inside her own blood. 03:42 a.m. 180 nautical miles southeast of Bermuda. The storm came out of nowhere. One second the sky was bruised violet and perfect for running. The next, the horizon cracked open and hell poured out. 40-foot swells. 100-knot winds. Rain like shrapnel. The yacht, Jasmine's ghost, the one that had carried them through gunfire and headlines, groaned like it was begging to die. Alexander was lashed to the helm with a climbing rope, salt crusting his eyelashes, screaming coordinates into a dead radio. Jasmine was below deck, barefoot on the engine room ladder, one hand on the fuel line valve, the other clutching the satellite phone that had gone silent 20 minutes ago. M was gone. Signal lost. Last words. They've got a Reaper drone. Lightning forked so close the air smelled like burnt copper. The yacht lurched, rolled 90 degrees, and for one endless second Alexander was staring straight down into black water that wanted to swallow them whole. He roared her name. Jasmine. She shot up the companionway, hair plastered to her face, blood running from a gash over her eyebrow. Starboard engines flooded, she yelled over the howl. We've got maybe 6 minutes before we lose power, and the storm finishes what Victoria started. Another wave hit. The world flipped. Everything that wasn't bolted down became a missile. Laptops, the bottle of Hennessy, the gold cufflink he'd given her in the warehouse. Alexander caught her wrist before she could tumble past him. Their eyes locked. No words. Just the raw, animal understanding that this might be the last time they ever touched. He yanked her into his chest, wrapped the rope around both of them, and tied them together like a promise. If we go, he shouted into her ear, we go together. She nodded once, fierce and unafraid, then kissed him hard enough to taste blood and salt and goodbye. The next wave was taller than the mast. It picked the yacht up like a toy and slammed it down so hard the hull cracked along the keel. Water exploded through the seams. Alarms screamed. Lights died. Darkness swallowed them whole. 04:11 a.m. Somewhere in the Bermuda Triangle. Cold. That was the first thing Jasmine registered when consciousness clawed its way back. Cold and the taste of diesel and the weight of Alexander's body pinning hers to what used to be the ceiling of the master cabin. She couldn't move her legs. Alexander. Her voice cracked like thin ice. He didn't answer. Panic hit harder than any wave. She shoved at his shoulder. Alexander, wake up. A groan. Low. Pain-filled. But alive. She almost sobbed. Moonlight speared through the shattered skylight, painting them silver and red. His forehead was split open. Blood poured into his left eye. She tore the sleeve off her shirt, pressed it to the wound. Hey, look at me. His good eye fluttered open. Pupils uneven. Concussion. Bad. Jasmine, he rasped, trying to smile through the blood. Told you we'd go together. Shut up, she snapped, voice shaking. We are not dying in this floating coffin. She looked around. The yacht was on its side, half submerged, rocking in the dying storm like a wounded animal. The emergency raft was gone. The life jackets were gone. The satellite phone was in 3 pieces. They had nothing but each other, and maybe 20 minutes before the hull gave up completely. Alexander tried to move and cried out. She followed his gaze. A jagged piece of carbon fiber had speared through his thigh, pinning him to the bulkhead. Blood pooled dark and steady. Arterial. Oh God! She ripped the rest of her shirt, fashioned a tourniquet above the wound, hands slick and shaking. He caught her wrist. Listen. No. Jasmine, listen. His voice was fading. If I pass out, you're not. Promise me. He forced her eyes to his. Promise me you'll swim. You'll live. You'll burn her down for both of us. Tears cut tracks through the blood on her cheeks. I'm not leaving you. He smiled, soft and broken. You never left me. Not once. Not in 6 years. Another groan from the hull. Metal screaming. They had minutes. Jasmine looked around wildly, then saw it. The emergency flare gun bolted under the chart table. She lunged for it, pried it free, loaded the last cartridge. Alexander shook his head. Storm ate the horizon. No one's coming. Someone's always watching, she said. She climbed up the tilted deck, wind still howling, rain still slashing, and fired the flare straight into the black. It arced red and beautiful and hopeless. Then she crawled back to him, curled into the cradle of his body, and held him while the ocean tried to take them. Minutes bled into eternity. His breathing turned shallow. She whispered every secret she'd never told him. How she used to steal his t-shirts because they smelled like him. How she'd memorized the sound of his laugh when Malik beat him at chess. How she'd dreamed of a life where she wasn't invisible and he wasn't broken. He whispered back. How he'd loved her since the night she fell asleep on the penthouse couch waiting for him to come home from Tokyo, and he covered her with his coat and sat on the floor just to watch her breathe. How every empire he'd built was just practice for the kingdom he wanted to build with her. How sorry he was that he'd waited until the world ended to say it. She kissed him quiet. The hull shuddered. A final, fatal crack. Water rushed in, cold and black and final. Jasmine closed her eyes. This was it. They were done. Then, a spotlight. White. Blinding. Cutting through the storm like the wrath of God. A voice, amplified, American accent, military. Boss. King. Hands where we can see them. Jasmine's head snapped up. A Black Hawk helicopter hovered 20 feet above the wreckage. Door gunner aimed straight at them. Followed by 2 more. Navy SEALs fast roping down. She stared, stunned. Alexander managed a bloody smile. Told you someone's always watching. The first SEAL hit the deck, weapon up. Hands. Jasmine raised them slowly. The SEAL's eyes flicked to Alexander, to the shard in his leg, to the blood. Jesus Christ. Get a medic. More boots. More shouts. A corpseman dropped beside Alexander, slapping a tourniquet, starting in 4. Jasmine just knelt there, shaking, as strangers saved the man she loved. The corpseman looked up. Ma'am, we need to move him now. She nodded, numb. They lifted Alexander onto a stretcher. He grabbed her hand as they carried him up. Not without her, he slurred. The SEAL in charge, tall, scarred, eyes like winter, looked at Jasmine. You king? She nodded. He handed her a satellite phone. Call came from M. Said to tell you the Reaper drone wasn't Victoria's. It was ours. We've been tracking you since the penthouse. Orders are to bring you both in alive. Jasmine stared at the phone. Then at Alexander, pale as death on the stretcher. Then at the SEAL. Alive for what? The SEAL's smile was thin and sharp. Ma'am, the Secretary of Defense wants to make a deal. Victoria's kill switch just became the property of the United States government. And you two are the only ones who can arm it or disarm it. He gestured to the rope ladder dangling from the chopper. Your choice. Come with us and live. Stay here and drown. Jasmine looked at Alexander. He was barely conscious, but his fingers tightened around hers. She leaned down, kissed his forehead. Together, she whispered. Always, he breathed. They lifted off as the yacht finally surrendered, sliding beneath the waves with a sigh that sounded almost relieved. But the darkest hour wasn't over. It was just changing shape. 12 hours later, undisclosed black site, location classified. Alexander was in surgery. Jasmine hadn't slept. She sat in a concrete room with no windows, wearing navy scrubs, hair still crusted with salt and blood. Across the table, 3 people. A woman in a charcoal suit, NSA badge. A man in dress blues, for stars on his collar. M, who wasn't a hacker in a basement. M, who was Commander Marina Reyes, United States Cyber Command. Jasmine stared at her oldest friend, the girl who'd taught her to code in a Chicago library at age 12, and felt her world tilt again. You knew, she said quietly. This whole time. Marina's eyes were steady. I recruited you when you were 17, Jazz. The Maid thing was cover. We needed eyes inside Voss Empire. Victoria was always the target. Jasmine laughed, bitter and broken. So I was just a pawn. You were the queen, Marina said. You just didn't know the board was ours. The 4-star general slid a folder across the table. Inside, photos of Malik. Current photos. Her brother, alive, happy, attending MIT on a full scholarship. With a detail of Secret Service agents who weren't there for protection. They were there to keep him quiet. Jasmine's voice turned to ice. If you've heard him. We haven't, the NSA woman cut in. But Victoria has a dead man switch. If she doesn't check in every 24 hours, Malik dies. Along with 127 other people whose families you saved with your transplant app. She's been holding them hostage for years. Jasmine's hands curled into fists. What do you want? The general leaned forward. We want you to finish what you started. Go back. Pretend you're still running. Let Victoria think she's won. Then, when she activates Lazarus, I trigger the override, Jasmine finished, and hand you the keys to the biggest cyber weapon in history. Marina nodded. Jasmine looked at the photos of her brother. Then at the door where Alexander was fighting for his life. She stood up slowly. Give me 48 hours with him, she said. Let me say goodbye. The general started to protest. Marina held up a hand. Granted. Jasmine walked out without another word. 36 hours later, Naval Medical Center, Bethesda. Alexander was awake. Pale. Bandaged. Alive. Jasmine sat on the edge of his bed, holding his hand like it was the only real thing left in the world. He knew. Of course he knew. They'd told him everything. She couldn't look at him. I have to go back, she whispered. Alone. He was quiet for a long time. Then he reached up, cupped her face. Take me with you. You almost died. I did die. The second I thought I'd lost you. His thumb stroked her cheek. We end this together or we don't end at all. She started to cry. He pulled her down beside him, held her while she shattered. Outside the window, the sun was setting blood red. Inside, two people who'd survived the unsurvivable made a promise with no words. They would go back. They would let Victoria think she'd won. They would walk into the trap holding hands. And when the moment came, they would burn it all down. Together. Even if it killed them. Final image. Jasmine standing at the window, watching the sunset, Alexander's hand on her hip from behind. Both of them knowing this might be their last night on Earth. Both of them choosing it anyway. Because some love stories aren't written in starlight. They're written in gunpowder and goodbyes. And theirs was about to light the match. EXT, abandoned naval airfield, Virginia coast, 4:57 a.m. The sky is the color of a bruise that finally decided to heal. A lone Black Hawk sits on cracked concrete, rotors already clawing the air into submission. Jasmine King stands at the open door. She is wearing Alexander's leather jacket over hospital scrubs, the sleeves rolled 4 times so her hands can move. Her locks are braided so tight they look like armor. Her eyes are red but dry. She has cried all the tears she is willing to give the world. Behind her, Alexander Voss limps forward on a carbon fiber cane that hides a blade. His left leg is in a rigid brace, face still swollen from surgery, but the look he gives Jasmine is the same one he gave her on the sinking yacht when he thought they were dying. Like she is the only fixed point in a universe that keeps trying to spin them apart. Marina Reyes, Commander M, best friend, betrayer, savior, stands beside the chopper in full dress blues, the 4 stars on her collar catching the first hint of dawn. 48 hours. After that, the United States denies you ever existed. Jasmine doesn't blink. We stopped existing the moment Victoria put a price on our heads. We're just here to collect the change. Alexander reaches Jasmine, slips his free hand into hers. Their wedding bands, matte black titanium stolen from Victoria's own vault, click together softly. Alexander. Clock starts now. They climb aboard without looking back. Sunrise over the Atlantic. The cabin is stripped for war. No seats, just tie-downs and a single crate marked diplomatic, do not scan. Jasmine kneels, pops it open. Inside, 2 tactical suits woven with graphene threads, 2 encrypted earpieces, and a velvet box the size of a heart. She lifts the box, opens it. 2 rings. Not the black titanium ones. These are rose gold battered ancient. Engraved inside, JK plus AV, 1865. Found them in the evidence locker. Belonged to your great-great-grandmother. She wore it when she escaped slavery through the Underground Railroad. Figured we could use the luck. Alexander's throat works. He takes the ring like it's made of glass. You never stop surprising me. Get used to it. Forever's a long time. They slide the ancestral rings over the titanium ones. For circles now. 2 hearts. 1 war. Jasmine taps her earpiece. Malik, you on? Static. Then her brother's voice, 19 years old, steady as steel. Live from the MIT Quantum Lab, Big Sis. I've got 127 families ready to scream the truth the second you give the word. Also, I look amazing in a cap and gown. You owe me graduation photos that aren't mugshots. Jasmine laughs once watery. Deal. Alexander leans over, kisses the tear she didn't let fall. Let's go get our life back. A white Gulfstream G650 waits, engines glowing cherry red. Victoria's lover, co-conspirator, walking cologne ad, steps out in linen and smugness. Victoria sends her regards. And a one-way ticket to your public execution. Jasmine steps forward, sunlight catching the rose gold ring. Tell her the gift is already in the mail. Hale gestures to the jet. No weapons. No phones. No miracles. Alexander smiles with too many teeth. Miracles are overrated. We brought receipts. He clicks the cane. The blade slides out 6 inches, then retracts. Jasmine lifts her braid, pulls the metal hair cuff. It unfolds into piano wire garrote. Hale swallows. On second thought, keep the toys. Victoria wants you scared, not dead. Yet. Int. Gulfstream, cruising altitude. Hale pours champagne. They ignore it. He tries small talk. They ignore that too. Jasmine stares out the window at the turquoise sea sliding beneath them like broken glass. Alexander's hand finds hers, thumb tracing the rings. Whatever happens when we land, we finish it together. I was going to say, whatever happens, I'm grateful for every second I got to love you out loud. She turns, kisses him slow and deliberate, like the plane isn't about to deliver them to hell. Hale pretends to read emails. The island is a crown of black volcanic rock ringed by water, so blue it hurts to look at. A natural amphitheater has been carved into the cliff. At the center, a steel platform jutting over the sea like a diving board to judgment. On it, 2 chairs bolted to the deck. Above it, a 200-foot LED screen facing the ocean. Live feed already rolling to 200 million viewers worldwide. Caption: Watch them confess, then watch them fall. Victoria Voss stands center stage in a white silk gown worth more than most countries' GDPs, hair perfect, smile venomous. She holds a microphone like a scepter. Ladies and gentlemen of the world, today you witness justice. The Gulfstream taxis on the water, floats to the private dock. Mercenaries in Voss Empire tactical gear swarm. Jasmine and Alexander are dragged out in zip ties. Victoria descends the stairs like a queen greeting peasants. She stops 2 feet away. Look at you. The billionaire and his maid. How tragically poetic. She circles Jasmine slowly. I always knew you wanted him. I just never imagined you'd be stupid enough to think you could keep him. Jasmine meets her eyes calm. Funny. I was thinking the same thing about you. Victoria's smile falters for a quarter second. Jasmine gives the tiniest nod toward the giant LED screen. A single frame flashes, Malik smiling in his MIT cap and gown. Then it's gone. Victoria didn't see. But every mercenary did. Their earpieces erupt in static. Then Malik's voice, broadcast on every frequency. This is Malik King. 24 hours ago my sister saved the world. Right now she's saving it again. And if you're still taking orders from the woman who tried to murder 180 million people, you might want to check your bank accounts. Every mercenary's phone buzzes simultaneously. They look. Their offshore accounts, the ones Victoria paid them through, are now empty. Transferred to a single account labeled King Foundation, for the 127 families you tried to kill. The mercenaries lower their weapons. One by one, they turn toward Victoria. Contract terminated, ma'am. Victoria's face drains of color. She claws for the manual trigger necklace. Jasmine is faster. Zip ties already cut by Alexander's hidden blade, she catches Victoria's wrist, twists until bones creak. You wanted a show? She rips the necklace free, holds the trigger pendant high for the drone cameras. Here's the finale. She crushes it beneath her boot. Every screen on the island dies. Then reboots. A new feed. Paying the hitman who killed Alexander's parents. Forging the abortion papers. Laughing as she arms Project Lazarus. Last night's confession. I'll burn the world and marry Hale in the ashes. The mercenaries step back, forming a corridor. Victoria screams, lunges at Jasmine with manicured claws. Alexander intercepts, takes the scratch across his cheek, then backhands Victoria so hard she spins into the Caribbean in a cloud of white silk and fury. The splash is spectacular. Jasmine turns to the drone hovering above. To the 200 million watching. Justice isn't always clean. Sometimes it wears a maid's uniform and rose gold rings stolen from a woman who never deserved them. She lifts her hand, shows the ancestral band. Alexander steps behind her, arms around her waist. And sometimes the billionaire learns the real fortune was never money. It was the woman who saw him when he was invisible. He drops to one knee on the steel platform, pulls out the original engagement ring, the one he bought 6 years ago and kept in a safe because he was too afraid to give it to the wrong person. Third time's the charm. Jasmine King, will you marry me in front of the entire world? That just watched us bury the devil? Jasmine's laugh breaks on a sob. Only if we do it right now. The mercenary captain whistles. His husband, a priest ordained in Turks and Caicus for tax reasons, jogs forward in board shorts and a clerical collar. Mercenaries form an aisle with raised rifles like an honor guard. Malik appears on the giant screen, live from MIT, holding a sign that says "About damn time." The priest grins. Dearly beloved, we're on a cliff, tide's coming in. Let's not tempt fate. Jasmine and Alexander face each other. No music. Just waves crashing and 200 million people holding their breath. I, Jasmine, take you, Alexander. In chaos and in calm. In billions and in broke. In storm and in sunrise. I, Alexander, take you, Jasmine. To have and to hold. To fight beside and to build with. From this apocalypse forward. They slide the final ring on, the original diamond, now nestled between rose gold and titanium. Till the stars burn cold. The priest barely finishes. I now pronounce you. Before they're kissing like the world is ending and beginning in the same breath. Fireworks erupt overhead. The mercenaries found the island's emergency stash and decided celebration beats peril. Victoria treads water below, screaming obscenities no one can hear over the cheers. The drone feed cuts to a single graphic. They won. Love won, evil zero. Hashtag Maid and Millionaire. Fade out on Jasmine and Alexander making out on the platform while the sun sets behind them in a sky that finally looks like hope. Real weddings available. DM for pricing. Subscribe for the honeymoon livestream. I need a cigarette and I don't even smoke. EXT. The platform, golden hour, 1757. The sun is a molten coin on the horizon. The ocean burns with it. Two bodies are still fused at the lips like the world forgot how to end. 200 million screens are watching. Half are crying. Half are on one knee in their living rooms. Every social platform has melted. The only trending word is goals in every alphabet ever invented. A rifle barrel nudges a satellite phone into frame. Merc Captain. President on 1. CNN on 2. Little brother just hijacked the Jumbotron again. The giant screen flickers. A 19-year-old in an MIT hoodie holds a cardboard sign. Big sis just married a billionaire. Tuition still due. Venmo at Save the World. The mercenaries howl. Someone starts a "Pay the Boy" chant that circles the globe in 11 seconds. Laughter breaks like sunrise across the platform. Tears smear blood and salt and 6 years of almost. Voice on phone. Mr. President here. Project Lazarus is dead. Every stolen dollar is going home. Charges dropped. You're free. The word free hangs in the air like a verdict from God. The platform explodes. Rifles fire joy into the sky. Fireworks rain color nobody knew existed. Hands find hands. Rings click, black titanium, rose gold, ancestral gold diamond. For circles. One heartbeat. Whisper. Free. Whisper back. Say it again. Lips crash. Almost topple off the edge of the world. A seized speedboat growls, hungry. A waterproof case is tossed to the mercenary captain. Midnight. No redactions. Burn it all down. The case contains every secret ever buried. Every senator. Every offshore lie. Every scream silenced by money. The captain salutes with 2 fingers and a grin sharp enough to cut night. The throttle slams. The boat leaps. White wake slices gold water. A silhouette stands at the bow, arms wide, hair whipping like a war flag made of midnight. Behind, the island shrinks. A white gown thrashes in the current, screaming at indifferent waves. No rope is thrown. Tokyo. Traders scream as shares rocket 4,000%. Chicago South Side. Elders dance in the street when the Bodega TV shows a familiar face. White House. A pardon is signed live, then the president looks straight into camera. Sometimes heroes wear aprons. MIT. A kid gets carried on shoulders wearing a paper crown. Atlanta Hospital. A little girl with a new heart whispers, "The maid saved us." Engine cuts. Silence so complete the stars can be heard breathing. A velvet pouch spills 2 coins into a palm. 1 penny, 1969. 1 subway token from a vending machine night that changed everything. Worthless and priceless. So you know I'd give you the universe either way. A folded paycheck stub, yellowed, treasured for 6 years. is torn in half and released to the sea. No more reminders needed. Hands pull a body into a lap. What do you need now? A house with no cameras. Burnt pancakes. A bed too small for distance. A porch where we watch nieces and nephews grow up believing love stories can be this loud. Promise. Already bought the next island. No staff. Lifetime supply of vending machine donuts. Lips find neck. Laughter spills like champagne. A scream into the void. You lost. Love won. And we're just getting started. The echo circles the planet twice. Neon green jello appears from a cooler. A spoon lifts. Mrs. Voss is fed like royalty on a speedboat deck while stars applaud. 1 year later. Turquoise house on stilts. Hammock. 2 mugs. Mr. Right and Mrs. Always Right. 7 months round, glowing. Barefoot on the railing watching dawn paint the sea rose gold. Arms circle from behind. Palms spread over the life kicking inside. Morning, Mrs. Morning answer. Morning, Mr. Last name kept, first name shared. Down on the beach, a 19-year-old teaches coding to barefoot kids on solar tablets. A dog named Lazarus chases waves. News ticker nobody reads anymore. Life sentences served. Senators fallen. Kill switch turned into free global Wi-Fi. The Maid and the Billionaire. Somewhere the cameras can't follow. Living too loudly for legends. Final kiss as the sun crests. Drone pulls back. 2 bodies, 1 dog, 1 porch, infinite ocean. Text fades in. They lived. Not perfectly. Not quietly. But ridiculously, fiercely, forever in love. The end. Or just the beginning. One last ping from an untraceable account. Stop crying. Go tell someone you love them. Right now. We did. Black. If your heart isn't currently outside your body, check your pulse. Drop baby bottle and the name you want for their daughter. Comment where you're watching from. Subscribe because the baby special is coming and it will end you. Thank you for living this legend with me.